All right, this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to make PDF script sides for your next film or TV shoot. So first you're going to start with the PDF of the script. I'm going to open this example script here in my PDF viewer. And I can see I've got the whole script here listed out. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is find the scenes that are going to be included in today's sides. So in this example, I'm going to use scene 5 and scene 17. So I'm going to find those pages, and then I'm going to delete all the pages that are not containing those scenes. You should see, depending on the PDF viewer that you're using, I'm using Preview in Mac, but if you're on a Windows, you might be using a Adobe product. But regardless of which one you're using, there should be a view option to see thumbnails. And this is the view I tend to find most useful for going around here and finding the pages that we don't need and deleting them. All right, so there's scene 5 starting. It continues down here. All right, scene 6, don't need that page. Don't need that page. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong page. Don't need this page. All right, I'm going to find scene 17, actually, and just go right there. Okay, there's scene 17. So I'm going to delete these pages here. If I hold down Shift, I can select multiple pages. Great. And then I'm going to delete all the pages all the way until the end because I don't need those. Okay, so here I can see I've got scene 5 starting on this page. It continues. It goes until, oops. Oh, I see. Okay. Scene 5 ends right here. So I actually don't need this page. And then we have scene 17. So I've got 3 pages that are going to contain the 2 scenes that I want on today's sides. So now what I do is I go to add markup. And again, this is going to look a little bit different depending on the PDF viewer you're using. It might be under an annotate menu, but the goal that you're going to try and accomplish here is to find a box annotation and then choose a black border and a thinner border, probably around, I usually do around this thickness just to make sure it prints well. And just crop it right in there. You're going to draw a box around every scene that is not one of the scenes that you want on your sides. So in this case, it's around scene 4. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the same thing on these scenes that are not part of scene 17. So I'm just going to go right like that. I can actually copy and paste that box just to save myself a little bit of time. Boom. Okay, great. Next, what we're going to do is add a line. So you're going to go under the shape option and choose line. And we're going to do a diagonal line from the top left to the bottom right. This is sort of industry standard. Don't exactly ask me why, but this is what most script sides look like, even if they're done by hand with a permanent marker. It's usually 1/ from the top left to the bottom right. I have done 2 slashes before, but I think the goal with 1/ is to make it so that people can still read that previous content if they need to. So you don't want to obscure it too much with 2 slashes. All right, once we've done that, we've X'd out the scenes that are not part of your shooting day. And the last thing I do, which everyone does this a little bit differently, is I like to add a circle around the scene number, just so people understand that that is indeed the scene that we're shooting. Just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on scene 17. Paste that circle in there. Great. Now, one last thing that is a great practice to get into doing is to add text at the bottom of scenes that continue on to the next page. And this is to indicate to people that when they're reading this, that this is not the end of the scene, that it actually does continue on the next page, and they know to flip the page over to look for that continued dialogue or action. So what I do here is I add just a text element, and I usually choose the Courier font because that's going to match the kind of typewriter typeface that most scripts are written in. And I'll probably bold it and make it a little bit smaller. And then I will typically add this to the left margin. So I'm going to left align it. And I'm going to type here continued. Actually, I'll change that to continues. And then not everyone does this. I mean, everyone does it a little bit differently, but I also like to add a note on the continued page where I say, sorry about that, where I add a note that this is continued and it designates what scene is continued, so people know what scene they're picking up in the middle of. Just like that. Again, this is how I do it. I know not everyone does this, but that's just something I've found to be useful, and I've never gotten a negative remark about doing that. So it's something that I do on most of the shoots. One last thing I'll note is that in the case where a scene ends at the very bottom of the page, like in this case on scene 5, this is the end of scene 5, but you almost wonder, does it continue on to a next page, or is this the end? So I usually also will add a note onto these scenes where I will say end of scene 5. And I do that just so people know that this is indeed the end. It doesn't continue on the next page. There's not some, I didn't forget to add continues dialogue box or something like that. We're not missing a page. This is indeed the end of the scene. You can denote this in any way you want. Something like that will do just fine. Again, everyone has their own little particular ways of doing this stuff, but these are the things that I have found most helpful on the shoots that I have worked on. And once again, I've never had anyone complain about adding this extra bit of clarity. Okay, last thing, now that we've got our sides created, looking good here, we're gonna go ahead and print these sides. So if you hit Command or Control P on your script, your PDF program, you should bring up the print dialog box, and you're going to select the printer that you want to print on. And what you're going to do, if you're working on a typical show, they'll probably want you to do two, what's called I believe it's called a 2-up formatting, where you have essentially the page shrunken down to be half size, so you can print 2 sides on one regular letter size sheet of paper. So how you do that in the PDF viewer is just to go to Layout, and then to do, you can do this 2 ways. You could do pages per sheet like this. Now that's going to actually have page 1, page 2, page 3, and that's a little bit more difficult because you would have to cut them and then stack them up. So what I usually do is actually keep that at 1 and instead go to, where is that? Oh, copies per page right here, and do 2. Okay, so this is then gonna basically print it'll print 3 pages of paper in this case with 2 side-by-side versions of the sides. So you'll cut the sheets in half, and then you can staple them right together then and there. This is how I create sides, and I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave some comments for us, and I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you.